So today is Saturday, January 18th, 2020, and I'm standing here at the intersection of Yonge and Bloor in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. As you can see, it's a pretty snowy day today, but I have my bike here, which has an action camera mounted on the front, and in this video I'm going to be giving a narrated tour of Yonge Street on this snowy day. So starting here at Yonge and Bloor, I'm going to begin my way heading south along Yonge Street, and I'm going to try and stay in the parts of the road where the cars have driven, because where the snow has been compacted, that's where I'm able to get the best traction. Although we've got a bit of a traffic jam here because someone's turning left and there's only one lane that seems to be compacted right now. But able to get around that. So I'll just say I'll do my best in this video to keep the lens of the camera clear of snow, but keep in mind there are other things going on around me that I need to pay attention to, so if there's a little bit of moisture on the lens, just be patient and I'll do my best to get to clearing it off. So this intersection we're crossing here is Charles Street. And I'll mention, the last video that I posted before this one was my video where I showed how you can use a 3D printer at your local library. And in that video I went to the Toronto Reference Library, which is just a little bit north of Yonge and Bloor, where I started this video. Alright, looks like I got clear road ahead of me, so I'm going to accelerate a little bit here. Of course, I'm not going to be going super fast at any point in this video here because the tendency of me wiping out is fairly high on a snowy day like this, and staying safe is certainly the priority. This road here, on one side is Irwin Avenue at the intersection, and the other side is Gloucester Street. I think that's how you pronounce that word. I've heard it pronounced different ways by different people. So the temperature currently is about -3 degrees Celsius, and this snow really just started this morning. When I woke up this morning, they had been forecasting that it would be snowing today, but when I woke up and looked outside, there was no signs of snow. In fact, it was kind of sunny if I recall correctly, but then all of a sudden the clouds rolled in and it's been snowing ever since. Not very heavy snow, but you know, enough snow that you'll notice it. I've been trying to film a narrated cycling video like this about once a week, and I decided to go ahead with my video today because I figured getting to see, you know, someone riding in the snow is a little bit different than what you'd typically be used to, and I figure a lot of my viewers aren't used to riding in the snow themselves. That taxi passed me on the right, which was a little bit scary. Guess they're a little bit easier for them to drive in the deeper snow that's not compacted than for me. But I'm just taking the lane here. On that note I was talking about there about riding in the snow, one of my most viewed riding videos like this is one that I filmed back in February of 2014, and it was just my ride to work that particular day, but it happened to be a very snowy day. There was much more snow on the road on that day than there is today, and I think my commute took me almost twice as long that day as it normally would, just because, you know, it was really hard to get traction with my tire, and I was spinning, and it was a fun ride to work, but I did successfully complete the ride. So I figured people that enjoyed that video would probably enjoy seeing this one as well. Really, riding in this kind of condition is really not that challenging. Like I mentioned that other one where it was, you know, really a lot of work, but this is really, as long as you know where to ride, you know, if you're in the, like I said, in the compacted parts of the snow, that's quite easy to ride in. And the bike I'm riding does have studded winter tires on it, but when riding in snow, snow studs or winter studs don't really do very much, because riding in snow is actually a lot more like riding in mud. You know, the snow just kind of pushes out of the way, so you can't really grip it very well, or you can grip the snow okay, but having little spikes on your tires don't really do anything to be able to make the snow stay in one spot. The snow studs are extremely helpful though if you're riding on a road that has patches of ice, because it just bites right into that ice. That intersection we crossed back there was College Street, and again I'll wipe off the camera lens. The snow seemed to be coming from the northeast. Like the snow was blowing down from the northeast when I started the video, so I figured that would be perfect considering I'm heading south, but it seems like snow still does manage to find its way onto the front of the camera lens. This is Gerrard Street we're just approaching here now. So underneath Yonge Street, there's a subway. It's line 1 of the subway. And many of these streets that we're intersecting with have subway stations. Gerrard is one that doesn't, but College did and Bloor did. Wellesley did, which is an intersection I guess I didn't call out when I went over it. The bike I'm riding today is the bike that I refer to as my green machine, and it's kind of my bike of choice in the winter months. As my regular viewers know, these days I typically ride recumbent bikes, but I'm not a big fan of riding my recumbent bike on roads which have salt on them, because salt is corrosive and does damage to bikes in the long term. So I prefer to keep my prized recumbent bikes away from the salty roads, but they also don't do. I also don't do very well when I'm riding them in snow like this, because it's a lot harder to be able to sort of shift your weight on a recumbent bike when you're in you're leaning back on the seat. If you want to shift your whole body weight, you can't really do it as well because you're just sort of in a less maneuverable position. So I ride the green machine. I get a lot of questions when I show the bike in these videos. People asking about the long stem that I have on the handlebars, where I got it from, why I use it. Actually, let me just mention we're at Yonge and Dundas, which is sort of the center square of downtown Toronto. Over on the left, that's Yonge and Dundas Square. Over on the right, that is the Eaton Centre, which is a major shopping mall in the downtown core. But yeah, so the reason why I use a long stem on this bike is the same reason that I have tended towards using recumbent bikes, and it's because I have some issues with my hands and wrists, and riding a conventional bike in a conventional position, when I ride for long periods of time, I get really sore hands and wrists. So with the long stem, I'm able to sit in a more upright position, which is a lot more comfortable for me. In terms of where I got the long stem, well, I just happened to find it at my local do-it-yourself bike shop in one of their parts bins, and I bought it, from there. So I don't know where it doesn't have any markings on it, so I don't know where it originally came from. But I feel I've been lucky to have found it, because it really does make riding a conventional bike a lot more comfortable for me. Got a traffic light here. This is a crosswalk, I guess, for people to cross from one side of Yonge Street to the other. This intersection here is Shooter Street. Shooter Street is a road which has bike lanes on it that I used to ride on fairly often, but I haven't ridden on Shooter in years. And the reason is because the pavement condition on Shooter was really bad. I think they may have repaved it since then, but for a long time it was really bad pavement and not very smooth, and I would elect to usually ride on other roads instead. Alright, so the intersection we're coming up to now is Queen Street, and that's where the Eaton Centre ends. So the whole time I've been riding here since Dundas, over on the right, that's all been one long continuous mall building. If I were to turn right here on Queen, that would take me over in the west direction, and in a block or so I'd hit Bay Street, and beyond there I'd then see Nathan Phillips Square, which is where Toronto City Hall is. I did make a video a few weeks ago where I rode up Bay Street and we went past the old City Hall building and the new City Hall building. So if you haven't seen that one, I'll put a link in the description below. Now this street here is Richmond Street, which is a one-way street which heads in the west direction. It has a bike lane on it, and so does the next street after it, which is called Adelaide, which is also a one-way, but it goes in the east direction instead. And I haven't wiped off my camera in a while, so I better do that now. So yeah, riding in the snow, it's really just about taking your time. I made a series of videos a couple of years ago actually quite a few years ago, about my recommendations in terms of riding your bike in the winter. I talked in one video about the sort of gear that I recommend using, and also another one about the type of bikes. Well, so I guess the gear being the bikes, you know, what type of tires, what type of, you know, brakes, things like that. And the other one is focused on the clothing that I recommend wearing for various different temperatures. Just crossing Adelaide Street now. And back in those days when I made that video, I was doing a daily commute, which was about 8 kilometers each way, and I did it pretty much, well, with a few exceptions, every single day back and forth to work. I think there might be, you know, you could probably count the number of times per year that I missed riding my bike on one hand. Now what's changed since then is that my job has transitioned so that I now actually work from a home office as opposed to going to a company office. So I no longer have a daily commute to do, but of course I still use my bicycles as my primary vehicle. And we're just at King Street here. But because of the fact that I don't actually have to go somewhere every day, I don't actually end up riding my bike every single day like I used to, and I'm a little bit more selective about when I actually ride it. So that being said, I haven't ridden in the snow nearly as much as I used to when I used to be riding every single day. So if I wasn't making a video today and I didn't have somewhere actually to go, I probably wouldn't be riding today. But you know, like they say, it's like riding a bike. If you've done it before, you can do it again, and riding in the snow really isn't much different than it was back when I did back then, so it seems to come right back to me. I find that the hardest part in riding in this kind of condition is getting started. Once you get yourself sort of up and balanced, you're usually able to stay up, but if you have to stop, starting up again, at least if the snow is kind of deep, can be a little bit of a challenge. And yeah, a bunch of those streets that I crossed back there all had subway stations. King Street did, Queen Street did, Dundas Street did. And the next one after King is Union Station, which is not actually on Yonge Street. It's a block to the west of Yonge Street at Bay in front, or a little bit west of Bay on front. And after that, line 1 then curves up and comes up the other side, which is on University Avenue. So this is Front Street here, and this vehicle is cutting in front of me. Everyone's a little bit more understanding on a snowy day like this. You can see the tires were spinning, just trying to get out of the intersection there. So straight ahead you can see a bridge that we're going to go underneath, and over top of it you can see there's a train, or I can see it. I think you probably would be able to see it as well. And those are the rail lines that lead to Union Station. We're just going to cross this street here, which is called the Esplanade. And once we get under the bridge, of course there's going to be no snow under here, which is nice. Another good opportunity for me to clear off the camera lens. I think this is my first time ever using this camera in snow before. I've had this camera for more than a year, but I didn't really use it very much in the first year that I had it. So this bridge here that we're about to go underneath is for the Gardiner Expressway, which underneath it has Lakeshore Boulevard. Which is a pretty busy east-west road. So I've been trying to film more of these videos lately, trying to show more parts of Toronto. So I'm always interested in suggestions of places that people want to see. I have made videos before where I've ridden down Yonge Street, so some of what I've already shown will be a review if you've seen my other videos. But I kind of intentionally chose a road today that was one that I'd done before, because I realized that this video is probably going to be less about the actual scenery around me and more about the actual aspects of riding on a snowy day like this. This street here is called Harbour Street. So I don't currently see anyone else around me riding their bike here on Yonge Street, but I've definitely seen other people out riding earlier today. There are plenty of people in this city who ride their bike in all conditions like I do. So here you can see this lane here has been freshly plowed, so that's very nice to ride in, very different from what I was just riding in, but it's short-lived. Whoop. Yeah, you want to be careful on this, riding in these conditions, because if you try and turn, really sharply, your wheels will start to come out from under you. But anyways, here we've arrived at Queen's Quay, which is the southern terminus of Yonge Street. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed joining me for this tour of Yonge Street on this snowy Saturday. If you enjoy riding your bike in the winter, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.